Okay, here's a new neat one. A Danish woman makes a beachside discovery that could redefine history. As exciting as a metal detector may seem at first glance, most of us would ditch the device after about an hour of finding nothing. Those lucky enough to hear the machine beep are often disappointed by a find that amounts to little more than a soda can. Some people find more, though. However, special individuals like Teresa Friedensberg Refsgaard stick with their metal detectors no matter what. They live for the hunt, and in 2018, Teresa discovered a mother lode that would make any treasure hunter's head spin. Her legendary find, however, defied explanation. When Teresa Friedensberg set out for a brisk autumn walk, she was expecting more than recreation and revelation, but the Danish woman came across something with the potential to alter history's books forever. Quite a beautiful woman here, too. Of course, Teresa's typical day wasn't too far out of the ordinary. She had a steady job working as a dental assistant. Her digging skills, however, weren't limited to scraping plaque off teeth, although I guarantee that skill would work great in working with artifacts and trying to get artifacts more cleaned up and things. It's generally the same type of skill that they are using in that endeavor. So, let's see if I can get exactly back to where we were. This thing wants to reset every minute. Teresa spent her spare time as an amateur archaeologist. With her trusty metal detector in hand, she scoured the Danish countryside for lost relics. Her efforts impressed quite a few other diggers over time. Here she is just digging out into a field. After spending enough time out in the field, Teresa received an invitation to join a group of archaeological hobbyists. They certainly weren't making monumental finds on a daily basis, though it was nice to have a support system. Here's the whole group that's here that does this, and here she is over here on the far left. That November, Teresa jumped at the chance to search the island of Hjarno, located just off the coast of mainland Denmark. Although it had only spanned a little over a square mile, the isle was a juicy prospect for explorers and somewhat virgin territory. See, in 2008, archaeologists came upon remnants of a stone structure in Hjarno. Tests determined, much to their surprise, that the materials dated all the way back to the year 5200 BC, and these were remains of a Stone Age settlement. And here's a portion of that. Teresa and her friends fantasized about uncovering a similar type bombshell. Once settled on the island, they split off in separate directions in order to cover more ground. The archaeologists swept their metal detectors back and forth across the soil for hours and hours. Here's the group leading out. Then Teresa got a beep. Tamping down on her excitement, she pinpointed the exact spot where her detector went off. She knew, based on past expeditions, that a beep could mean nothing. You could dig forever without finding so much as a penny. Sometimes you'll end up finding just a screw. Sometimes it's a button. Sometimes those Civil War looking guys, it's an important Civil War button. So here she is up under a dolmen, digging carefully so that any precious artifacts would be cleaved in two. Teresa pushed her shovel into the ground. She carefully examined each spadeful of dirt and then tossed it aside. She was nearly ready to move on when something caught her eye outside of the vid right here, a golden glint. The amateur archaeologist beamed as she produced a metal fragment. She hoped it was gold, but it was still too early to tell. Until then, Teresa had a good feeling about this spot, but she kept on digging. She got more and more excited, called in, and other people showed up. Here she is pulling a set of gold and a piece of ring. You can see how excited she is. And it was like a dream come true. Teresa unearthed more metal artifacts, completely intact and covered with intricate loops. Other pieces had precious stones inlaid in the center. Clearly, these relics came from the most masterful craftsmen of their days. And you can see these Celtic swirls and things that are going on here. And buttons with fasteners on the bottom, clasps. And Teresa knew that some archaeological hobbyists spent years looking for treasure with zero success. So it was positively crazy she had found a cache of 23 pieces of jewelry. She called her colleagues over to her unbelievable discovery. Here's a piece that's done in a peace sign with 3 sets of either ruby or garnet in it. Astonished, the archaeologists could hardly believe the treasure trove before them. Taking a closer look, they confirmed that the jewelry was mostly definite gold, but one other detail confounded them. It completely went against the known history of Hjarno. And here's a specialist looking over it. And the objects dated back to the 6th century, so they had no relation to the island's Stone Age culture that they had seen before. However, they also predated the Viking area, where tribes were constantly stealing and stashing loot all over Europe. So, who exactly buried all these trinkets? And here's a picture from the Vikings. Teresa brought in a pro to solve this mystery. Mads Raven, a researcher from the Velge Museum, theorized that the artifacts were of Roman origin. Early Danes, he posted, had must have traded with them, but why they had hid them, who knows? According to historical records, the creation of gold pieces aligned with a major disaster. A cataclysmic volcanic eruption around that time killed over 100,000 people. Strangely enough, nobody in Europe even knew anything about it, but did feel its effects. That's because the catastrophe unfolded thousands of miles away in El Salvador. However, effects of the volcano spread all the way to Europe, where the unusual weather patterns devastated the harvest and had hazy skies and problems, ash rains and things that were done back then. It's possible this led into some plagues and some bad things there too. Early Europeans could only imagine that the gods were punishing them with famine, so Mads guessed the Danes must have brought these treasured and buried them here as an offering. Of course, they won't be deep in the dirt anymore. Now they're going to be set up into a museum. 2 different museums in Denmark are displaying Teresa's groundbreaking find, and she also is helping their staff unlock more of the mysteries behind these relics. They could reveal an entirely new chapter about the country's past. Here she is in front of one of the exhibits right here, and I think it's pretty neat. Not all of this is from hers, but she's got a section that's in there, and it talks about it. Meanwhile, Teresa kept her job in the dentist office, though it's hard to call her an amateur archaeologist these days. She's only more motivated to keep digging at the past, perhaps with the help of treasure hunters from other parts of the world. And here she is continuing on, trying to find stuff out in other locales. It's pretty interesting here, and neat to see somebody go out of their way to do something and actually find something. Here she is all barefoot on a beach, and you can tell she gets quite tanned out here looking for this stuff in her extra time. You can tell she normally wears booties, and her foot's totally white except for the top part there. And yeah, so digging up finds onto a beach, who knows? Sometimes it's something like this, and they run into what would be a shipwreck just right out here, totally submerged, and all kinds of things. So yeah, interesting. Denmark showing a correlation right there in between, and it's no Sutton Hoo, but then again, this is kind of the Sutton Hoo of Denmark. Like, share, and subscribe, guys, and enjoy. Peace.